If you're heading offshore this week for dolphin, wahoo, or kingfish, you're in for some great weather. With light winds and plenty of sunshine, the redfish and trout should be fired up inshore. And if you're heading to the Sweetwater, you better get out early to beat the heat. No matter where you're fishing this weekend, we've got you covered here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. As you can see, I have a slightly different co-host with me today, filling in for Rick, Captain Tommy Derringer from the Florida Insider Fishing Report. Tommy, welcome back. Are you ready to help me navigate these fine Texas waters?
I am, man. I love being here for Texas. I love Texas. If you're heading offshore this week for dolphin, wahoo, or kingfish, you're in for some great weather. With light winds and plenty of sunshine, the redfish and trout should be fired up inshore. And if you're heading to the Sweetwater, you better get out early to beat the heat. No matter where you're fishing this weekend, we've got you covered here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. As you can see, I have a slightly different co-host with me today, filling in for Rick, Captain Tommy Derringer from the Florida Insider Fishing Report. Tommy, welcome back to the show. Are you ready to help me navigate these fine Texas waters?
I am really ready, Brie. I love everything about Texas, especially the fishing. So,
right?
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you. Thanks for being here. Well, before we get to our first region, let's say hi to Old Faithful over there at the workbench. Got some new blood in here today, Dave.
Old being the key word.
No, I said O-L-E, not old.
It works both ways.
It's different.
We're going to be talking about maintaining your reels today. That's what we're talking about.
That's important.
Yes, it is.
Very important.
Gotta have good equipment. All right, well, let's start off in the upper Frust region where the bite is good and plenty if you can beat the heat. So let's get our guide, Johnny Geis, on the line to give us some helpful hints. Go for it, Johnny.
Great. Hey, Bree. Hey, Tommy. Hey, we're going to start it off to the show tonight. Let's talk about some schooling stripers up on Lake Texoma, right here on the north part of my region. I checked in with guide buddy Captain Bill Carey at Striper Express Guide Service, and he reports that the topwater action has been just outstanding the past few weeks on Texoma. The lake's about a foot high, the water temperature is in the high 80s, and boy, man, that's triggered an early morning and late afternoon striper bite. Popular place to find these schooling stripers traditionally is down by the dam area along that riprap. But usually each morning the stripers, they push up the schools of shad to the surface, and that's when the action begins. You got to get out early in your boat. You got to head down towards the dam, and as you travel down there, look for those breaking fish out in front of you because they can show up on any of the main lake points. It doesn't take too long, though, before the birds find the stripers up schooling, and then the boats show up, and it's game on. The best topwater bait is a large pencil popper type lure. It's in shad colored. They're hitting the big gizzard shad. These lures are heavy. They're heavy weighted in the back end, and it's real easy to throw them a long ways. Hits the water, it sits at a 45-degree angle, and it's really easy to walk the dog, a fast action zigzag type retrieve, and usually the faster the better. If the fish start blowing up, which they will, you'll miss a lot of bites on these things at first, but they'll just keep walking it in, and they'll stay after until they get hooked. Just cast that lure to the closest schooling action. Let those fish load up on the lure when they hit it, and you better have a good grip on your rod because, man, these stripers, they're running about 5 to 10 pounds, and these big schools are busting the shad at daybreak, and it's just chaos. So I put together a few tips for how to fish in this type of action. First, be careful when you're casting to those stripers and handling the fish. Those sharp hooks, man, they can be so dangerous, and you sure don't want to hook yourself or especially your guide when you cast it. Stripers are strong fish, and you need to be careful when unhooking them, and be sure you don't get your hook in your hand and you have to stop your fishing and go in. So schooling stripers, man, they always draw a crowd, and everyone wants to get into action, so be courteous to the other anglers. When approaching that schooling action, it's best to troll in and don't run in with your motor. That will spook the school and ruin the action for everyone. So also best to try and move in ahead the direction that the school's moving. Don't troll through the boats and push the fish down. That's a big no-no. Number 3, that action, it's only going to last a short period of time, usually less than an hour, so be ready. Keep your lure in the water around the surface and fish, and the quicker you can land the fish and get back in the water, the more stripers you're going to catch. So check out Captain Chris Carey's videos and pictures on the Striper Express Facebook page, and give him a call if you want to get in some of this fast top water action you're looking at right now. So he sent along a couple of pictures here of this week's customers, and young man on picture 1 there, he's got a couple of big old stripers caught on top water baits. And the next picture, this last lady, she had a huge topwater striper, and that's what's going on up at Lake Texoma. Okay, the largemouth bass over Lake Fork. August, it's just usually a tough month. It's one of my months I kind of dread on Fork, but there's always biting somewhere. But water temps, they're already in the high 80s now, and the heat can be almost unbearable in the afternoons, but that's when these fish seem to want to bite. So there'll still be some great deep water action on some days, but it'll usually be short and fast. It doesn't take the bass long to feed, and you have to be there when they do. So we run our electronics all over the good structure place. We're looking for that bait, find the fish that are pulled up to feed, and sometimes you have to visit those best spots several times to hit that feeding time. So you might check it in the morning, they're not there, check it back in the evening, it's loaded up. Right now, big spoons, flutter spoons, the football jigs, and large Texas rig worms, that's what's catching the bigger fish. This time of year, some anglers, they switch over to this night fishing in August to beat the heat and the crowds. We got the full moon going on right now. The nights are a little bit cooler now, and the lake will be a lot quieter, and it's just a peaceful place to be out there after the crowds go in from the boat traffic. The bite, it can be a little more consistent, sometimes very good during the full moon period, and that's what we got this week. Be careful when motoring to your spots. When you're planning your night fishing trip, know where you're going to go, know how to get there, and be cautious and drive slower. Be sure you got a good light so you don't hit any of the standing timber and the trees we got here in Fork. Always wear that life jacket, especially at night. Be sure you have your boat's running lights on. That is a state law at all times. And a lot of people are fishing the green light docks. Pretty good place to fish. You can actually see the fish swimming through the lights. A lot of bait around these lights and some good ones hanging out there. The green lights are favorite places to fish, and some real big bass are being caught at night around all these green lights on the lake. And I bet we've got over 300 on the lake. So be respectful of the dock owner and the other anglers that might be fishing the same lights. And the best nighttime lures right now are dark jigs, black and watermelon worms will even catch fish, and sometimes black spinnerbait or buzzbait works pretty good. We got a couple of Lake Fork guys that fish night a lot, but guide buddy Randy Oldfield, he specializes in night fishing, and man, this guy can really put you on some big nighttime bass. He produces some pretty good, outstanding catches on a regular basis here in August. So it's not uncommon for Randy and his customers to land 20 to 30 big bass during these August nights. So he shared a couple of pictures. I know it's nighttime pictures, but that is some pretty good pictures of some big fish. Catches them at night, and you can catch 15 or 20 fish over 5 pounds. Some pretty good fish. Hey, don't forget that bug spray if you're going at night. Those mosquitoes are out. And call old Randy Oldfield if you want some great nighttime bass. And just want to close out about a quick update about the crappie action. It's on right now. We caught a good limit this afternoon, and we had several fish over 2 pounds. So if anybody's headed up Lake Fork, needs any help, give me a call. I'll see what I can do to put you on some fish. Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Johnny. Here are the hot spots for the upper fresh region. Lake Texoma. Striped bass and white bass are good on topwater baits. Diving birds are marking feeding schools on the surface throughout the lake. Use your sonar to mark schools along the river channel and flats. And in Lake Fork, largemouth bass are good on deep points and humps in 14 to 28 feet. Some topwater action early with plugs and bug baits. And crappie are good on jigs and mud minnows in 18 to 25 feet in brush piles and standing timber.
Those are some good nighttime tips Johnny just gave us.
Some good looking fish too, some big old bass.
Yep. All right, we're keeping it fresh in the lower fresh region where Falcon Lake, Choke Canyon, Lake Travis, LBJ, Fayette County, and Somerville are all producing pretty good right now. You just got to get in deep. Talk to us, Matt.
All right, let's get this thing rolling. We're going to start it off. We're going to start off with the bass, and I'm going to start off on with my baby down at Lake Falcon. The bass are biting pretty well. The lake came up a couple of feet. Was that hurricane that kind of skirted by. That scattered the fish a little bit, but you can still catch plenty. Concentrate on the man-made brush piles in that 10 to 20 foot of water. Throw a Texas rig, big ribbon tail worm, either in plum or blue fleck. Those are the two best colors. Also, you want to hit the main lake rock ledges with football jigs and deep crankbaits to add some more big fish to your box. Mike Bates has sent me a report from Choke Canyon. Top water has still been good early in the mornings on the edge of the hydrilla or in the holes of the openings inside the grass, catching bass up to 4 or 5 pounds. There's also an early spinnerbait and square bill bite on the outside edge of that grass. As the sun gets up, you want to get your soft plastics with a big weight, ounce and a half weight, and punch it through the matted hydrilla. Those big fish get under there in the shade and live under that canopy during the heat of the day. Brian Cotter sent me some reports from the Austin area. Lake Travis is still kicking out some fish, top waters and small swim baits early with a little bit of schooling action mixed in there around the marinas or in the deep coves. Later on, you work a heavy Texas rig or a jig off main lake points or deep ledges. Those fish are really deep. They're in that 20 to 40 foot range, but that's how you catch your bigger ones on up in the day. Lake Bastrop, it's been fishing pretty good out deep. You want to look for the humps out in the middle of the lake or drop-offs and get you a jig and spoon and find them on your electronics, get over the top of them. That's a great way to catch a bunch of numbers. Lake LBJ and Buchanan, both of them are fishing really good right now at night. You can dodge the heat at night. You want to work the lights off the docks. Look for the docks, the deeper docks. Those are your best ones. There's been some really nice fish in the lights. You can catch those on crankbaits or swim baits. Some of them have bass, but every now and then one of them just loaded up with white bass. So if you want to concentrate on bass, when you start catching those whites, you need to move on. Greg Boyk with Anglers Angle Guide Service sent me a report from Fayette County. The offshore bite's really good in that 12 to 20 foot range. Most of them on a Carolina rig with a green pumpkin stick bait or also some brim color soft plastics. Also catches some on a drop shot when they slow down on the Carolina rig. But one thing you need to add in is a big 1 ounce spinnerbait. slow roll it on the bottom out on those deep fish, and sometimes that'll catch you a few more after they've slowed down on the plastic. Lake Somerville has been fair. Better bass are coming off the south end around the island on the deep brush piles. Catch them on a black trick worm on a shaky head. That's been the best bite when the sun's up. You need to fish it extremely slow. Got us a picture of a bass there. That's one of Mike Bates with one of his Fayette County specials lately. Those big old fish never cease to make people smile. Let's knock this on down to the catfish. Falcon Lake, the keeper cats are being caught right now in 2 to 8 foot of water in the creeks. Shad, shrimp, and stink bait have been your best bet. The bank fishing's also been real good right now with the water coming up a little bit from that hurricane. But if you're chasing a trophy cat, they're being caught out real deep, drifting suspended baits in that 20 to 30 foot of water. Choke Canyon, the catfish are biting well on dough bait on the outside of the hydrilla. You can also catch them just vertical fishing down in the hardwood on dough bait and cut shad. Got a picture of that big old catfish there. That's one of Ram Reyes with Texas Kings Outfitters customers with I don't know what that big blue cat weighed, but it sure is a handful.
Wow, Matt, that's a big old catfish. I need to catch me one like that.
Oh, yeah. Slobby.
Thanks, Matt. Great report. Here are the hot spots for the lower fresh region. Falcon Lake, bass are biting in brush piles on Texas rig big worms. Also hit the main lake rock ledges with deep crankbaits and football jigs to have an awesome day of catching.
Awesome day of catching. It seems like the lower fresh region is always having an awesome day of catching. Those fish were huge.
They were
They're
huge.
always
That
like
catfish
that.
was
The
gigantic.
catfish,
I've never caught
bass.
one. I want to catch one like that.
Me
Man,
too.
What
Just
a monster.
bleh, just blobs out of your
It's a
arms like
big
that. It's great. All right, look alive, my anglers. We're trolling into the lower coast region next. But Tommy, let's visit the workbench and see what Dave Farrell has up his sleeve for rigs and techniques. You fixing
got,
some
Dave?
things over there?
I can take stuff apart real easy. Putting
you
it back
put it
together
back
is
together?
a little bit different.
A little bit. But you're going to
Maintaining
teach
reels.
us how to do it.
Make sure you have that little brown paper bag to take it back to the reel man with.
Oh my goodness. We'll be back with the teacher.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Garmin, join the club. Sportsman's Adventures, fishing for adventure. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats, eat, sleep, fish.
Reliability. Yamaha is known for it. And it's something boaters value, because these days, few things are built to last. When we find something that is, we hold on to friendships, traditions, outboards. Because every second on the water is sacred. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters choose Yamaha for the long run, for life. Because reliability starts here.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
For the Bay and beyond, team up with the best and rule the Bay in a Skeeter. Built for big water or running the flats, Skeeter has a Bay boat designed for you. Proven with 19 consecutive NMMA Consumer Satisfaction Awards. Versatility, control, performance, and design. Visit your local dealer or online at SkeeterBoats.com. Skeeter, it's more than a boat, it's a lifestyle.
Have you ever felt your heart pounding while feeling the power of a tarpon in the Florida Keys? Or experienced the changing colors of a mahi as you bring it on board? Whether it's in the Bahamas, the Florida Keys, Guatemala, or the Florida Everglades, Murphy's Law Sports Fishing has the ability to guide you to the fish of a lifetime. To book your trip today, call 305-246-0673 or go to murphyslawsportfishing.com.
Dave, we're here at the workbench, and I'm not sure if I'm going to the dentist or.
I got a lot of.
This might be dangerous.
I got a little tools that would work in a dentist's office because you're messing with little tiny stuff a lot of times when you're maintaining these reels. And we're talking about maintaining them anyway. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you want to get stuff that's worth maintaining. You know, if you go to the aisle and get the most cheapest reel that you can get, that's pretty much a throwaway reel. No matter what you do to that reel, it's probably not going to last more than 3 or 4 trips, and especially in saltwater. Saltwater is a whole different animal. I choose to buy all my reels, freshwater and saltwater, or all saltwater reels. I don't have a difference because I've learned over the years that if I'm dumb enough to go throw my freshwater reel into the saltwater and don't rinse it properly, I might as well just thrown it in the garbage because they just can't take it. The saltwater it just ruins most of the stuff in those reels that aren't made for it. If they're not made for it, they're not going to last. So you want to make sure you got to spend probably at least $100 or more on a reel before it gets to the point where you want to start taking care of it real good. Now, if you're fishing in the saltwater, every trip, even if you've got really good reels, every trip you need to wash them down with fresh water.
That's what I use mine 6 or 7 days a week. So I'll lightly rinse them and rinse the rod off really nice.
Right.
And then just wipe them down. And then every few weeks or so, if one's making some noise or needs a little extra attention, then you can kind of get into it and do some other.
A lot of guys will spray them with stuff like this Reel Magic. They'll put a little spray on them.
I usually put this salt.
Yep, that's
this
good
stuff. Works great.
If anti-corrosive stuff, just get it to spray down. But once if you're going to go ahead and start taking it apart, I don't know if the fellas can see this, but I've got a little felt pad that I've got down here.
It's a great idea, yeah.
That a lot of guys will use a towel. Well, if you use a terry cloth towel, some of these screws are so small they will disappear into the terry cloth, and then you pick it up and then it springs away, and then you're chasing stuff. A felt pad works really great. The stuff doesn't go into it. You use a white towel. You can use a kitchen towel a lot of times because they don't have a real thick terry cloth on it, and the stuff won't bounce off of it. So this is a really good idea, and to get some masking tape and put down a nice. This is how the things came apart. 1, 2, your steps, and also nowadays we have a phone, which is great because you can take a picture of the thing as you're taking it apart. You can take a picture, take a piece off. Take a picture, take a piece off.
The worst thing, you don't want to put a reel back together and have parts left over, which I've done before.
It happens to me all the time, and that's another thing right there. Keep your box that your reel comes in. You're getting a nice reel. Keep the box that it comes in, and it comes with a schematic. It has all the parts, how they go on, and maybe even take a picture of that and put it in your phone before you start.
Not a bad idea.
So that's a good idea. Another good reason to keep your box is a lot of reels, including this one right here that I tried to start to take apart today. If you don't have the little hex tool that comes in the box, this actually has little hex screws all over it.
And it comes with the reels.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get into it unless you go to the store and buy a new one. So that's not going to work for you. So generally speaking, what you want to do is you want to get your regular tool set you're going to have. You're going to need a little Phillips screwdriver, usually a little flathead screwdriver. Any of these little tool kits work great.
Buy these in any little hardware shop.
Exactly. Those are always good for the little screws that aren't specialty screws. Main thing you're going to really want to get is a pair of tweezers. Either that or a really nice pair of needle nose pliers, because the little springs and stuff that you're starting to take this apart, they go flying away, and if you don't have the right tools, you're going to be screwed. I like to use these little Dentex picks instead of Q-tips, because these things you can scrub real good with them, and they don't leave little hairs all over everything, because then you wind up getting all the hairs in there, just like you're having to clean all the hairs that you're putting in there. So these work really good. Toothbrushes work good. I'm old, so I always It's always
I don't need one of those just yet.
It's always good to have a magnifying glass. Just remember a rule of thumb. Put grease on gears and put it at the base of the gears, and only use 1 drop of oil per bearing. When you're putting oil on all these bearings, 1 drop of oil per bearing, and you should be good.
That's good stuff, Dave.
Yeah,
Thanks, man.
Wow, Dave, those were a lot of great life hacks right there, especially the camera one. I did that when I took apart the car seat for the first time to clean it. It was horrible.
It works.
So many parts to remember how to put back together. All right, calm conditions are on the horizon in the Garmin Lower Coast region. So let's check in with Captain Chad Kinney and see what's in store for us. Glad to have you back with us, Chad.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm glad to be back. Last week we were out of power and everything else, and so I can give you a good report. I'm going to talk about Port Mansfield here, since, of course, that's my home port, and give you some good fishing updates here. Port Mansfield, the trout bites have really been on the grass beds there and the potholes, and some redfish have been showing up. They've been continually showing up there around the lower coast jetties, Port Aransas, Port Mansfield, South Padre, with these calmer conditions prevailing. That's a good area to start looking for the redfish there. Speaking about the trout bite, like I said, here in Port Mansfield, we had the storm come through last week. Calmer conditions are here. So early in the morning, I've been going to a Mirror Lure Top Dog Junior. It's been working really, really great. In the morning, go like stop the thing probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock, but it's calm all day long. It's been good. The water's up about 2 feet. You had a lot of rainwater, so it's kind of flipped a little brackish, but underneath it's still some good salinity down there. And it's starting to subside also. So the fish are holding those grass beds about 4 to 5 foot of water. And definitely use that top dog, like I said, walk the dog, pop through those potholes, grass beds. Those fish been holding up, which was shallower a couple weeks ago. Like I said, it's up 2 feet, so 4 to 5 foot, concentrate on that. The early bite's been the best. If you're fishing with the soft plastics, I like going to that saltwater assassin. That magic grass is still my favorite color. Use an 1/8 ounce jig head with that. Use fish in the same areas at 4 to 5 foot and kind of work down through the grass, up in the potholes. You'll feel it right there. Live bait still working really excellent. There, if you're going to use that, throw them in the sand pockets and some drop-offs. But with the better conditions, topwater bite's hard to beat. A lot of fun, action. You can see everything going on. And later in the day, you can also hit east cut drop-offs and guts through there. There's been trout moving through there, and a lot of that water's starting to fall out, so it's going to be falling through there, and all the guts and everything else through there will go through the jetties. Got a picture here. Actually, my nephew just fishing there. He has an 18-foot classic, jumped off of his shallow sport. He was throwing some top waters and got a good limit of trout there. So moving over to the redfish. Redfish are in the flats before the storm hit, but right now it looks like moving to the jetties with the calmer conditions. I like using some live croaker, Carolina rig working really good out there, or some fresh cut mullet, menhaden. You can also try a fish bite attached to like an eagle claw, heavier jig head, 1/4 to 3/4 ounce, probably a 3/4 ounce jig head. Current haven't been moving too heavy. But also right now, look on your Garmin sounder for washouts and holes. With that storm that came through, some of the holes are deeper or shallower. Some of the sands moved around, so look for your washouts there. Also look for the tidal movements. If the tides are really ripping out, the bites can usually be off. The best thing you can kind of see is a change in the tides. If it's kind of still and the tide starts falling, that's kind of my favorite. That bite might turn on for a half hour to an hour. When it shuts off and the tide starts really ripping, like I said, after that it's time to go ahead and go back into the bay system out through there. Got a picture here of a jetties. All these slot fish are great slot reds in there. Captain Eric Salas out of Port Mansfield with their Sea Straight charters was out there just hammering them on the north side of the jetty there. And moving over to the offshore season, the federal waters is closed for snapper fishing, but it's open in state waters. People a lot of times get confused in this, so it's open in state, and it's really been good. Blue water's moving in around that 60 fathom curve, which should start holding a lot more pelagics and stuff. It's kind of dirty out to that, but then there's a definitive line out there, which is really good. The state water snapper fishing, like I said, it's open. You get 4 per person, 15 inches minimum, and it's really been good. Look for the water clarity to get better. It's going to regain the fish back into the reefs. They kind of get blown off, in my opinion, through the storms. I've seen these where they kind of get blown off or they get stuck in the silt or get a little tired. So right now, definitely utilize your Garmin sounder more than ever. See the fish are suspended, but more than likely they're going to be hugging on the bottom. With the conditions after the storm, like I said, like this, it's got a big silt layer normally down on the bottom. So usually they're going to be hugging right on the bottom. If that's the case, put a bank weight like 8 to 16 ounces on it and keep it right on the bottom. Just lay it right on there and use like a double rig. I've been using that Momoy forever, 130-pound class. It's great to grab and utilize. And double rig that with a 12-aught Eagle Claw circle hook and use several fresh baits. They get picky sometimes after this stuff. You can use squid, cigar minnows, menhaden, mullet, whatever you can get that's fresh, and see what they're biting the best on and switch your baits out to that. And usually they're going to probably hit that bottom hook more because they are down on the very bottom, just feeding by scent. So heading out deeper onto the blue water, put a full spread out and the billfish. There's some billfish out there, sailfish, white marlin, blue marlin. Pre-rigged the day before. We like pre-rigging a lot of islanders with ballyhoo rigged on them and have them ready to change out, whether they get washed out, after trolling a long time or after a really good bite. You don't waste any time by re-rigging anything. And I love using those islanders rigged with on the outriggers, put those two out there, put them on a shotgun with maybe a teaser bird in front of it, and on your flat lines, hit a chugger, super plungers, or put some mid-range on there on your flat lines. Also, when you find a rip out there, troll both ways. A lot of times they're north and south moving like that, so kind of hit north, hit south, figure out which way the knots or the current's moving better, but usually the bite's going to be predominant on one versus the other. When you do, just kind of keep on going that same direction. And keep it definitely an eye out for those rips and color changes. They're out there right on that 6 fathom curve. And when you find one, stay on it, work it really hard. That's about the best chance you can have out there. And of course, always practice catch and release on those billfish.
Thanks, Chad. Great report there, man. Here are the shallow sport boats hot spots for the lower coast region. Inshore, the trout bite is on out of Port Mansfield with redfish being caught around the lower coast jetties. And then offshore, the blue water has pushed out deeper, but is now coming back in around 60 fathoms. Keep that in mind with state water snapper fishing still open.
Everything's looking pretty good. I'm liking it. All right, we're headed north to the Fish Bites Upper Coast and Alva Reel's Middle Coast regions when we return here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report. But before we go, we want to remind you that if you want to keep up with everything fishing in Texas, be sure to head to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy, where we're always uploading new adventures. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Alvy Reels, a better way to fish. And Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO offshore.
Why is Casa Vieja Lodge on everyone's bucket list?
Left teaser, left flat as well, 2 fish. They're everywhere. Right flat teaser as well. Left flat, right flat teaser.
Come to Casa Vieja Lodge and check it off your list.
Finding a shoreline is easy. Finding a sure thing is not. For over 20 years, anglers from Kitty Hawk to California and every shore in between have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites. So just stop with the fishing and get busy with the catching. Ask for Fish Bites or Fish Bites Fight Club lures or visit fishbites.com.
Power pole tip, we're talking about the power pole spikes. The power pole spikes come in 2 models. Ultralight, like I'm holding here, which is perfect for kayaks, canoes, paddleboards. The hollow core technology keeps this spike extra light and easy to use in those smaller vessels. The HD model, which stands for heavy duty, of course, is great for your technical poling skiffs, but it's also good for all your beach-going, sandbar-going, pontoon boats, party boats, and even up to big contenders. I go by sandbars from Sarasota to Key West, and I'll see boats using 2 or 3 of them. The neat thing about that is you're avoiding any use of anchors, ropes, or chains, and it's holding your boat tight and secure. And also, they can be paired up with Power Pole Micro, and if you purchase the Power Pole Micro along with a spike, HD or ultralight, Power Pole is going to stroke you a check for $100. And that's today's Power Pole tip.
Tommy, we use those spikes all the time at the sandbar with our skiff. They're awesome.
Everything they make.
Have one,
great.
just in case.
Yes.
Just in case you need a spike. All right, well, let's head into the Fish Bites Upper Coast region where you won't be disappointed whether you're planning on fishing inshore or offshore this fine weekend. And it's looking like Carl is still fishing. So why don't you actually read his report for tonight?
I will. Let's see what's happening. Well, Carl says, what a week, man. Those redfish are still on fire. Sabine has proven once again to be one of the best spots in the Texas Upper Coast for the redfish. Now, all the way from the oyster reefs to the pass and out to the end of the jetties, the reds are running, and he's not just talking slot-sized reds. He says that he's getting some reports on some huge bull reds being pulled into the boat. Now, over on the Texas City Dike, the guys are still telling them that there's plenty of slot-sized redfish schooling along the jetties as well, but they're chasing bait fish in the open water. Now, the same can be said for the East and West Galveston Bay, and some of the best consistent methods have been live shad or mullet, free-lined or rigged on a popping cork. Now, the artificial choice is going to be a Bass Assassin 4-inch shrimp on an 1/8-ounce jig head, and Carl's got a picture here.
Let's see it.
This is Shannon with her nice redfish. So that's a pretty picture.
Keeping cool.
All right, so now moving on to trout. He says he's back to chasing those trout across the bay. The bite is remaining strong and steady in these hot summer months. And it seems as though the most productive time of day is early in the morning and then late in the evening. The bait schools seem to be more concentrated at these times. Fishing the grassy shorelines and the oyster reefs in East and West Galveston Bay are still great spots to hit for those trout. Moving further east, the Sabine Lake Complex is still producing some very nice trout. He's received reports of some bigger trout being caught along the jetties and the beachfront. The anglers have been casting a live shrimp, again on a popping cork, which is a great natural option. And the artificial choice is going to be a mirror lure topwater or a twitch bait. He's got another picture here. He says nobody's going to go hungry with this many fish on the deck, and holy moly, that's going to be a big old fish fry there.
He's not lying.
Now moving offshore onto the amberjack. He's finishing out the first week of amberjack season, and he says it's been one for the books. He's really missed fishing for the reef donkeys, as they're called. Now, opening day started out in the 150-foot range on some nice underwater structure, dropping some big hardtails. And they hooked up on some fish in that 50 to 65-pound range. Those are some big fish. And moving out a little further into the 175 to 200-foot range, he hooked up a few more times and marked some really nice fish in those areas as well. And as he touched on last week, using a good heavy leader material can be the difference between landing one of those big fish or losing it to that deep water. Now, when using large hardtails for bait, it's important to use a good quality hook. An Eagle Claw makes a circle hook, a 16-aught. It's a big old circle hook, and it's definitely our choice. We like to rig these on Diamond Momoy 300-pound test monofilament leader and hang about 3 pounds of weight to get that hardtail down fast. When you set it at the right depth, be sure to be ready for the strike and always check your drag. You do not want to lose a rod and reel to one of those big bad boys. And he's got another picture. This is PJ with one of those reef donkeys, and that thing will burn your arms right there.
Wow.
Now, staying offshore, he's going to talk about some snapper. As one season starts, another one comes to an end. We had to say goodbye to snapper season, but we had to make it a grand finale before the end. We finished out with a great group of anglers and some really, really big snapper this year. Hopefully everyone got a chance to put some of these tasty fish in the freezer. You know, these guys were caught in the same 150-foot range as our amberjack. We broke out a diamond and butterfly jig tipped with fish bites in the squid flavor. This stuff is really the best kept secret, but not really, because we talk about it a lot. It really works really, really well. He's got one last picture here.
Let's see it.
This is Sal with a huge snapper, holy moly, to finish out the season.
Wow. Good for you, Carl. That's awesome.
All right, and here are Carl's the mirror lure hotspots for the Upper Coast region. Inshore, redfish, look for birds working over bait along the jetties and oyster reefs. You're going to want to cast a 4-inch Bass Assassin shrimp on an 1/8-ounce jig head. And then offshore, amberjack, fish that deep water structure in the 100 to 150-foot range with large live baits rigged on a 16-aught Eagle Claw circle hook. That is a big old circle hook.
That is. And in his report, it said, you don't want to lose one of those. Trust me. Ha 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 ha, in parentheses.
So it means he's probably lost one.
It's happened before. You don't have a problem until you have a problem.
That's right.
And by the way, have you read reports before? Because that was pretty seamless, I'd say.
I feel like me and Carl We're like this.
Yeah,
we know each other.
You guys are synced.
Yeah.
All right, the Alvy Reels Middle Coast region has it all from trout to sorties. So let's get our rock star captain on the line to give us more details. Hi, Bank.
What's going on? I tell you what, our light winds have been good for the bays this week and great for the surf. It gives us unlimited real estate to fish, but we got in the surf this week and really did well right on those outer bars. The westerly flow finally disappeared. We've had north winds all week and dropped the barometer. And man, it's we've been waiting for it all summer long. We finally got it this week. The area around Pascavile has been good on tide runner trout, entering and exiting Pascavile. Soft plastics like glow chartreuse and fried chicken bass assassins have worked well, as have purple demon little johns. East Matagorda Bay has been really good for trout wading. Those mid-bay reefs are holding trout all year, and especially the heat of the summer with this green tide we're having. Been throwing she dogs and chest deep water at Drill's Lump, Three Beacon Reef, Long Reef, Half Moon Reef, and Bird Island Reef. And when the surf is as flat as it's been, it kind of just leaves the bait all to yourself. Everybody goes to the surf, so all of those big-time reefs out there are just holding lots and lots of fish. In Palacios, the early morning incoming tide has been good for catches of trout at sunrise. We're on that full moon right now, so that real early bite's been best. Around the pipeline, Spanish Lake, One Island, Airport Flat. Then Coon Island, Half Moon Reef, and Turtle Bay's been good out of the boat on live shrimp on their popping cork. The Rockport Port Aransas area has been good around Mud Island and Allen's Bight on soft plastics and top waters. Live baiters have found good trout around the jetty on shrimp and finger mullet. And then you work the edges of the ICW there with live shrimp. You can catch fish right on the edge of that grass line. Surfside jetty's been hot. When the surf's hot, so's the jetty. Surfside jetty's been great on live shrimp and finger mullet. But people that are cast netting those big pogies are really finding the bigger trout. Then the edges of the reef, Bastrop Bay, are holding shrimp on live, holding good trout on live shrimp. And like I said, we just tickled to death that we got to surf this week, and it's just like we've been waiting all summer long, and it really paid off. There's a picture there of big trout. They continue to depress in about 5 foot of water. Please take care of our trophies. I mean, we've got a great trophy trout fishery here in Texas, and it's only going to get better when we take care of them and release them. Inshore redfish, August is normally a tough month to find redfish consistently in the shallows. That's because the tides are low and, man, the water's about 86, 87 degrees. Pump a little bit more water in the bays and our temperatures are cool down, and that 6 inches of water becomes 2 foot of water, and that's kind of what we've got lately with these better tides. The Colorado River's holding lots of 6 to 8 pound redfish. They're blowing up bait right on the bank. Water's been so clear, you can see those big reds rooting up the shrimp in the shad. Then the waders along the east end of Matagorda, East Matagorda Bays found reds around Brown Cedar Flat, Bird Island, and Catch-All. There's some bruisers like 32 inchers on that west end of East Bay while drifting live shrimp. And, of course, all the jetties are players. Surfside, Fort O'Connor, Matagorda Jetty holding lots of reds and mullet on large table shrimp. And also there's a lot of reds right there in the first gut of the surf. Go offshore, got Michael Quebeca said those calmer seas have allowed him to get out there on those swordfish in about 80 miles out and about 1,400 to 1,800 foot of water. They're drifting the hilltops and ledges. They're getting a lot of fish in the 70 to 90 pound range, but young Stone Bolton of Matagorda set a new junior record with a 252 pounder aboard the Hellstone out of the Storm Shack Lodge. And during those nights, those shore G's up on the water column, and they're feeding a little shallower water. When I say shallow, 600 foot while drifting those hilltops. Our swordfish fishery is a pretty good one here. It doesn't get targeted a lot, but man, those who know how to do it are really cleaning up. And then the kingfish, they continue to impress behind the shrimp boats. Blue water's creeping closer to the beach, and those kings are showing up. And then the weed lines are holding Dorado. Our snapper season's over. It ended early last week, and we had a really good snapper season. But now the amberjacks are going as well, and man, there's just a lot of big amberjacks out there on all those wrecks and reefs.
Sounds like fun. Thanks, Bink. Here are the hot spots from the Middle Coast region. Inshore, use mirror lures and live shrimp for trout at the Surfside jetties. The trout are plentiful for waders working flats adjacent to Pass Cavallo on the incoming tide. And then offshore, use table shrimp for redfish at the Surfside jetty.
Sounds good to me. All right, we're casting into one more region. We return here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, so stay hooked for our Startron Middle Fresh region, and we will be right back. But first, we have to see what Dave's got for us over there at the workbench.
Got some good rain gear here, especially with all this hurricanes going on. Thank the goodness they're gone. We'll still be dry.
We'll still be dry. We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Miralure. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. And Startron. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO. Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
The only reel with over 100 years of heritage. Alvi reels are manufactured using the most reliable components. Alvi's state-of-the-art drag and retrieve rates are perfect for any fishing challenge. So whether it's a side cast or spinning reel, Alvi makes a reel that best fits your needs. Alvi reels are manufactured to best practice standards and are in fact so robust that the Alvi also comes with up to a 10-year salt and sand warranty. For more information, go to alvius.com.
Dave, we're back at the workbench. Going to talk about some cool
new
products. What do we got here
First
today?
off, we got a couple of items from Gil. Gil's been making stuff for a long time for a lot of the sailing guys in the UK. And if you go offshore and in a competitive way, Gil is the thing to get. So, they've been doing their own stuff now for a long time, but they've, 100 years or something. But they've also, now they're making Gil Fishing, and now they got a new website called gilfishing.com. So you can go and find all this great stuff to go fishing in. And this is their brand new for 2020, the 3L Jacket Pro, Tournament Pro 3L. 3L means it's got 3 layers, and it is got 3 layers of waterproofing and breathable fabric. You can see inside. It's all
seams
taped.
Are nice. Yeah, that looks real nice.
All the seams are taped for your comfort and also to make it 100% waterproof. You will not get wet when you wear this gear. It's engineered for comfort as well and maneuverability because
it's light.
It's very light. All those sailors, they have to be able to move and crank and do all that stuff. Yeah. So it's really, they have reflective tape all around it on the logos. Really nice waterproof zippers on them. Double cuffs with the nice rubber material inside there. It keeps you sealed up. You can seal those things really tight, and it's not going to get in on you. And also, you can also get a bib with it. Same 3-layer construction. What's really cool about these is they have a zipper that goes all the way down that right leg from the top to the bottom, so you can step right out of them. You know, a lot of them don't have that feature, and
you gotta have
get stuck in them.
It makes such a difference to have the bibs underneath the jacket if you want to really stay dry.
If you want the complete totally dry, you get the jacket and the bibs together, the Pro 3 layers, and you're not going to. They come in 2 different colors: graphite, which is what this is, and a taupe color. And go to gillfishing.com and find out how to get a pair of those.
Very nice.
Weather's coming always. Next, we got some Star Bright Instant Hull Cleaner. If you leave your boat in the water for a little while, nowadays there's a lot of places where you're going to get a stain almost immediately. You know,
yeah.
You go to launch the boat and you come out, oh, I've got a stain.
Well, I know all about this.
It's just the way it is. Well, tell us what you
I fish in tannic water, so we get that tannic water stain. I mean, I don't care how much wax you put on there, you're going to get that stain. And this stuff right here is by far the easiest stuff. It doesn't, if you spray the stuff that's not gel, it gets in the air, it can get in your eyes, on your skin.
That stuff sticks.
The sticks.
The gel formula, you spray it onto the stain and it stays on the stain.
It stays on there, and it takes, a few seconds and it gets rid of that stain.
Right. Well, you're supposed to spray it on and leave it on for like 2 minutes, then come back by, and wipe it off. It works with a sponge or a sprayer. It takes, like I said, 2 minutes. We're good on fiberglass, metal, painted surfaces, whatever. Next, we have the Restorer Wax. If you've got a colored hull that's got a little starting to get a little chalky, that oxidation on it, this is what you use to do that. You get that Restorer Wax on there. You can either put it on by hand with a cloth or a buffer and put it on where you want it on that chalk and rub it down real good. Let it sit until it hazes up, and then come back with a dry cloth and take away all that haze.
It's pretty easy, really.
It is, and it adds a nice protective layer once you're done. So go to starbright.com and get some of that. Next, we have some Strike King, the Rage Tail Ned Bugs. It's
kind of hard to say.
It is hard. And I was watching those fellas on Lake Champlain this past weekend, just in the Bassmasters, just catching with these little things. And these are great for when you're wanting to go that finesse route, using light stuff. You're having a hard time getting a bite. These are great on the Ned rig, the little jig head, or as a drop shot. You can use that in weeds. It comes in 15 different colors. Those are like 2.5 inches long, which is a perfect little size for the Ned rigs. It has their own coffee scent. I guess wakes them up in the morning. I don't know. But they are made of high-grade plastic.
It's just the right size. I mean, it seems like anything would eat that.
And they do. They come in 9 packs and 15 colors. So go to Strike King and find out the Rage Tails there. Last but not least, we've got some great Shimano butterfly jigs. These things have been, when they first came out, they were all the rage, and they've only been getting better and better. That one there is called the flat fall jig, and what that one does is when you throw that thing in, it'll go horizontal for a long way and stay in that strike zone, and then flutter down, and it's got a great center of balance, so that it falls with that wobble, and it's great for hookups. And how you fish that is you make long lifts and then let it flutter back down. Long lifts and flutter back down.
And just about anything down there will eat these, right?
Exactly. And this is the flat side version of that. It goes pretty much straight to the bottom. It hauls butt to the bottom. It's got a nice mirror on the one side. If you turn it over there, it's pure mirror. And great hookups on those two, 5 ounces, 10 ounces, whichever.
Yeah.
And they catch snappers and whatever's on the bottom.
That's cool, Dave. Good stuff.
Yep.
Bree, what do you think?
Well, you know what, Dave, if Rick was here, what would he be eating that's on that table?
He'd be eating those Rage Tails.
He would be, because it's coffee
It
scented.
smells really good. I'm tempted.
All right, the saying goes,
don't do it, Pookie.
Don't do it. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And in the Star-Tron Middle Fresh region, we're still getting great reports on LBJ, Toledo Bend, and same Rayburn. So talk to us, Matt.
All right, Bree. Yeah, things are kind of just been a little boring, I guess you could say, but in a good way. Not much has changed this week from last week. And that kind of goes for all over the Middle Fresh region and all species. I'm going to start off in the southwestern end of my region with the good old Hill Country Hammer, Mr. Jared Poole, filling me in on a good report from LBJ. He said basically things are the same from last week. He's still catching some good bass from brush down there on Main Lake Point, and he's using a Texas rig for that job. And then late in the evenings, he's catching some fish on topwater baits, and after dark, he's going to a buzz bait over that water willow grass along the shoreline. I've got a photo here for you real quick of 2 nice bass that they caught down there on LBJ. As you can see, Jared's still catching the big ones. You guys definitely need to book a trip with Jared. He's really catching more big fish than anybody I know right now. And you can check him out at lbjfishing.com. Now, backing up here to my neck of the woods on Toledo Bend, the bass are kind of tough to pattern right now. And I say that because I've just caught fish on so many different types of spots lately that it's hard to define a simple pattern for how to find them. So I'm going to try to narrow it down for you the best I can. And what I've learned that is this time of the year, the best spots are often unpredictable, especially in regard to depth. So just keep an open mind and really just go fishing and always be on the lookout. I've caught them from as shallow as 1 foot all the way out to about 22 foot deep lately. And now the lake is coming down some more. We're at 170 above sea level right now, and it's still falling. And so in an attempt to narrow it down for you, I'm going to say look for the small sweet spots that have a harder bottom or some type of cover that the fish like to hang around. And there needs to be a steady supply of shad swimming around that area as well. Now, these sweet spots can be points, humps, or even just edges of flats where the bottom tapers off to deeper water. And that deeper water nearby is probably the biggest key right now because the water level is dropping, like I mentioned. So make sure you've got some deep water close by and that good supply of shad around, and you'll figure it out. Worms and crankbaits have still been the best for me lately. That tap-out worm in Junebug color lately, rigged on a shaky head, has been really good, as well as the fat job rigged on a Carolina rig. And don't forget, you can always pull up shallow around the cypress trees and lily pads especially and get some bites right now. Now, Sam Rayburn is still giving up a lot of fish, but size is a little tougher to find these days. They're not catching quite the big ones that they have been all summer over there. The water's down about 1.5 feet below pool level, but there's still plenty of great shallow cover in the water to throw at. So just focus on the grass and the trees that have the deeper water close by. Now, swapping over to crappie, they're still hanging and singing a similar song on Toledo Bend as well. They're biting pretty good, but timing of spots and a slow falling presentation has been key. So if you hit a spot and you feel like the fish are there, you see them on your sonar or whatever, you're not catching them, try coming back a few hours later. Sometimes, especially with the full moon we've got right now, the middle of the day bite's good. Look for them in the shade of the timber and in the shady side of the bridges around the pilings in about 15 to 25 foot of water. Small minnows and lightweight monkey milk panfish that have some jigs are still the ticket. And I've got another photo here for you of Mr. Tom and Miss Cheryl Dorman. I'm going to call them the most photogenic couple of the crappie season this year of 2020. We've had a lot of great trips with those folks this year. And as you can see there, we caught a good, nice mess of slabs that day. So
they're looking happy.
Enjoying catching those good crappie. And now lastly, I'm going to talk about the white bass for just a minute. They're still grouping up and feeding pretty good late in the evenings and especially after dark at night. On most of the lakes in the Middle Fresh region, you can find that deal going on. You can find them a lot around dock lights, near the main lake especially, and then shallow diving plugs are going to be your best bet for catching them. Just run those little shallow crankbaits right through those lights and along the edges of those lights, and you should hook up.
All right, thank you, Matt. Here are the hot spots for the Middle Fresh region. Bass, they're biting worms and crankbaits in a wide range of depths. Target points, humps, and drops. And the crappie are in 15 to 25 feet of water around timber and bridges. The white bass are fun to catch around dock lights with those shallow diving plugs he was just talking about.
Sounds good to me. No, Matt just became a daddy.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Congrats, Matt.
That's
boy. Awesome.
Yeah, I know. Dave?
Yes?
This is a great show. A little change it up with Tommy
I always
a little
like
bit.
it when Tommy comes down from Jacksonville.
Right?
He keeps telling me he's going to invite me up to see him, but he's always fishing. He's trying to make money.
Well, There's
a lot of fishing.
He knows that.
Got a lot of mouths to feed in that family.
That's right.
I'm crime.
3 girls.
Crime don't pay.
Well, now that we're here, we're reconnecting again. Y'all have to go fishing together,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And we have to get out to Texas to
I
fish
take him
some
down
more
here all the
bass.
time.
I want to.
All the time.
Oh, really? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Tommy, thank you so much for being
Thanks for having me.
co-host with me today. Guys, get out on the water. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.